As part of my attempts to watch the first episodes of all of the TV shows I grew up with, Budgie is one I was really looking forward to. I have very fond memories of Budgie. I love the design of Budgie as a character, and the theme song is one that's been stuck in my head for the best part of 30 years. So I was very keen to see what the first episode was like, because I couldn't really remember any specific events or really any other characters beyond Budgie. And I have to say, this first episode, Pippa Arrives, is a brilliant way to introduce the characters. It's also a really great way of informing the viewer about the differences between airplanes and helicopters. Because in this episode, this new helicopter, this new plane rather, called Pippa arrives, and I love the design of her. She looks wonderful, and she's apparently never heard of a helicopter before because she thinks Budgie's propellers are on his head because he had an accident, which I have to say amused me quite a lot. And they suddenly start competing with each other. You know, Budgie would say, well, I bet you can't do this, and Pippa would say, well, I bet you can't do this. And they have a race to see who's the fastest, and then Budgie proposes a slow race, because of course he can kind of hover in the same pace, whereas Pippa, once she starts moving, she goes forward. And they get into a bit of trouble because of this, and they cause quite a lot of bother. And the main message here is that you shouldn't compete with each other, you should work together. And of course, there will be things that each character can do that the other can't. But that's what means they make a great team, because together they can do all of it, which I think is a really nice message. And particularly for young children, I think that kind of silly, bickering competitiveness is very common among young children. And to have this saying that there's really no need to do that and that everybody has different skills and different abilities is a really lovely message. As I said, it was a really great way to introduce the characters as well, a great way to get to know Budgie and Pippa, but also the other characters such as Lionel. I'd forgotten there were human characters in Budgie, which is something that I wasn't expecting. Honestly, I didn't love that aspect of it. I feel like it would have worked better had they just been all helicopters and airplanes, kind of like, Disney's Cars. I feel like it would have worked much better. But this is just me basing this off of the first episode, and clearly it's not that much of an issue because I loved this as a child. I have a vague recollection of having a Budgie the helicopter plush at one point, with propellers that didn't move, I think. I can't remember. But either way, this brought back a lot of beautiful nostalgia for me. I still don't remember this episode specifically, but it was great to see the characters being animated. They have some wonderful facial expressions. They are really well animated. And it's a really good narrative with a really important message as well that I think is, well, something that will benefit all of us, because I think a lot of people do get very competitive, and especially with Budgie and Pippa, it's kind of like an apples and oranges situation. They're two completely different vehicles, but they don't seem to realize that. And I think it's an important message to remind people that this silly kind of competition really has no benefit, and it's much better to work together. Definitely a really solid way to introduce the characters in the series, and the nostalgia was just beautiful.